So the NFL draft order has changed a teensy bit because of the NFL trade deadline. So let's take a look at a mock draft that took that into account. Welcome back to Mock the Mock, where we take a look at someone else's mock draft. And I'm mocking, giving my views, thoughts, and opinions, and what's crack-a-lacking. It's your boy, Broshmo, just in case you did not know. So go ahead, become a bro and subscribe. Leave this video a thumbs up if you enjoy the content. As always, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Quick shout-out to Underdog Fantasy. Thank you for sponsoring the video. We will have a new sponsor maybe by next week. So get forward to listen to that ad read. I'm going to have a lot of fun with that one. But we're checking out the NFL Stock Exchange. I love looking at other people's perspectives, especially Trevor Sikkema and Connor Rogers. They're brilliant minds. If you're not familiar with them, then I don't know how you found this channel. But they're from PFF, especially Trevor Sikkema. He writes really nice player pieces for some of the prospects. Really cool. But yeah, go check them out. But let's go ahead and get into their mock draft with the current draft order. So we're going to be jumping around picks here and there, but we're going to cover the first two here, being the Lions. They go Bryce Young. Duh. To me, that's the most duh thing in this draft class. It's quarterback in general, not necessarily just Bryce Young, because CJ Stroud does, I think, deserve to be in that conversation, because there's going to be worries about the lack of size from Bryce Young. Kind of is what it is. But if you're the Houston Texans, you're picking two. I think you're going to pick the quarterback. The Lions don't pick at one. Listen, Davis Mills ain't stopping me from picking a quarterback. I get the philosophy of like, maybe if you're not high on any of these quarterbacks. Listen, Stroud and Young, they're the quarterbacks in this class. They're the quarterbacks. If you don't like one of them, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you, because I think both have played really good football this season. Yeah, there's some questions with Stroud and a bit of the, I guess, not even necessarily conservativeness, but what can he do outside of structure? What can he do when he sees pressure? That's the thing. He doesn't see a lot of pressure because of a very good Ohio State line there. But if you're the Lions, you're the Texans. For me, it's a no-brainer. It's quarterback. It's literally the best position on your roster for your franchises. Just go ahead and make the difference there. Like, the NFL draft, like, people call it a crapshoot. I don't think that's necessarily true. But you are taking dart shots for the most part, hoping these guys work out. Go ahead and do it with the position that matters most, especially with these two prospects. That's how I see it. I don't think you could really talk me into Will Levis. No, you definitely can't. But I don't think you could talk me into Will Anderson for either of these two teams. But again, that's just my opinion. All right, we're going to jump to the next two picks. Will Anderson going to the Panthers, kind of a no-brainer. Like, you're not going to get, if you end up not being able to get either Stroud or Young because of the two teams ahead of you, go ahead, take the next best prospect on the board, and that's Will Anderson's BPA, best player available, and that's Will Anderson. He is phenomenal. Pairing him up with Brian Burns, that's just bonkers. This one I found interesting. Passing up on Jalen Carter to go with Peter Skoronski, which I agree, it's much more of a need, and Skoronski might not have the high-end athleticism or the length, but he's a guy that I think can play tackle. He's a guy that just gets how to play offensive line. I love this cat so much. The thing is, will teams still consider him a top 10 because of the lack of length, the lack of high-level athleticism? The guy was recruited to be a center and only found his way at tackle because Rashawn Slater had opted out for the Wildcats there. So, like, there's going to be those questions. So it's like, it feels weird taking Skoronski over Jalen Carter, but I understand it if you're the Steelers and your tackle play is not all that great. So let's look at the fifth pick here now, being Jalen Carter. No-brainer for the Jags. You get Jalen Carter, that's great. That's kind of like your defense needs that in the middle, man. They need somebody there. I mean, shoot, you saw what Travon Walker did when he had Jalen Carter with him on that defensive line for Georgia. You already got a very good player there in Josh Allen. So it's like Jalen Carter just helps complete parts of that defense that are lacking. You could also discuss corner here, but I think Jalen Carter is he's top four prospect. Let's keep this sucker rolling. with the Raiders going Paris Johnson. I'm a huge Paris Johnson fan. Also, probably the best human being in this class. That's just is what it is, man. I love I love Paris Johnson. For that, dude does a lot of volunteer work, has his own charity and such. But he's also a very good left tackle. Like, I think this guy out of, like, if we're going to talk who are going to be top 10 tackles in this class, will there be? Skoronski's a name that comes to mind. It's just, how do you feel about his limitations? There's Broderick Jones, who's just playing really good football this year. He's improved a lot in terms of his footwork. And then obviously Olu who has the smallest sample size of the bunch, though by not much when you do a comparison with Broderick Jones. But Paris Johnson has been phenomenal left tackle. I don't think he's allowed a pressure or sack all year, or definitely not a sack. It hasn't allowed a sack all year. Hasn't been penalized this year. Dude has that athleticism. Wouldn't surprise me if he ends up being offensive tackle 1 in this class. Raiders, they need tackle help. Makes all the sense in the world. Let's keep it going with the Buccaneers. Myles Murphy. Love Myles Murphy. Myles Murphy's a top 10 player for me. Dude's a physical specimen. The versatility he would bring to this Buccaneers offensive line, I think, is huge. This is also an area I would consider one of the corners, maybe, whether it's Keely Ringo or Joey Porter, maybe even Christian Gonzalez is another guy that comes to mind there. But Myles Murphy is probably the best player available. We know the pass rush needs some help for the Bucs. They were really only getting it from Shaq Barnett, and that wasn't saying much. Barnett, though, has had a good year. Obviously, went down to injury, but Joe Tryon not really doing his thing. He's still young, but getting a versatile piece like Myles Murphy would be huge if you're the Bucs. All right, Eagles take Brian Brazee. Brian Brazee, man, he's a really good athlete. Pairing him up with Jordan Davis sounds scary. And I actually did this in my 7-round mock draft. Go check that out. I put that out yesterday. But Brian Brazee, man, I think it makes all the sense in the world for the Eagles. Like, I don't think they're done on the defensive line just yet, as they do have contracts they could probably get out of, like Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave. I don't know where he's at in his contract. I think he's got maybe, if not, it ends this year, the following year. So it's like they could be looking to the future with this pick. They do love a deep rotation there on the defensive line. Brian Brazee, really good player. I know people are a bit skeptical because of he had the kidney issue this year, kidney infection, which I don't really know how much that really plays into, this guy's always hurt. It's like he had a kidney infection. But he did have the tear ACL last season that cost him time. So I don't know if people are going to really put an injury red flag on him for that. But outside of that, when he is healthy, he plays exceptionally well. All right, on to Texans going Quentin Johnston. Brandon Cooks, man, looks like he could be maybe shipped after the season potentially. Maybe, I don't know, or maybe they reconcile. Regardless, I like pairing up your new young signal caller in CJ Stroud with a very good offensive weapon in Johnston. Dude's lit it up the past 4 weeks. It was that Kansas game that really turned things around. It's like, oh man, it's like Duggan like finally figured out, oh wow, I didn't know Quentin Johnston was on the field for me. Where you been at? Oh, I've been here. You haven't been throwing me the ball. But dude is really good. I love, like, you look at, he's got that prototypical X wide receiver size, what he can do after the catch. Good contested catch target. I love this addition here. And then at pick 10, we have the Seahawks going Nolan Smith. I'm a bit indifferent because I'm not exactly this high on Nolan Smith. I get it for being an undersized edge rusher. Like, he has the explosiveness, he has the length you like, but where it really makes up for it is being so good of a run defender that it's like, okay, maybe you can't get away with his size. It's just his size is like in today's NFL, you don't mind 240 or plus from your edge rushers. He's at 235, a guy that just hasn't been able to put on the size since arriving there at Georgia. So it's like, I'm a bit indifferent about that, but he would be a good fit for the Seahawks, a guy that can stop the run. Like, that's the thing, man. you worry about that size when it comes to run defense, and his run defense has been really, really good. So it's like torn pectoral. He's out for the season. Hopefully we see him at a pro day. Don't know, because typically torn pecs are about 4 to 6 months. So it's like, it sounds like he'll probably be out of it for the combine, but he could probably potentially participate at his pro day. So that also kind of muddies the waters with his draft stock. All right, Cardinals go Joey Porter Jr. That makes sense to me because the Cardinals cornerback room is dog water. Listen, don't talk to me about Marco Wilson and his one good game against the Saints. Byron Murphy's fine, but he's a guy that dips from the outside to the slot. That's good, but you need more than that. Outside of those two guys, they really have nothing. Antonio Hamilton, miss me with that nonsense. Joey Porter would be a really good scheme fit as well. And then the Bears go Jared Verse. You could make a case for Jordan Addison, I think would be a really good pick here, just with how barren the free agent market is going to be this summer for the receivers. But adding a guy maybe like Jordan Addison to be that field stretcher, I think would be huge to pair up with Chase Claypool and have a guy like Darnell Mooney. Those guys all could like play the slot if you want them to. But I understand Jared Verse being a more defensive-minded coach and Matt Eberflus adding a guy that's just so athletically gifted, physically strong, who's really been performing exceptionally well this year until the knee injury. He's been now playing through the knee injury, and it's not nearly been as good, but you know what he can be when he is healthy. I don't know if he goes this high. I got him as a top 50 guy, but big fan of Jared Verse, so it makes sense for a team that's recently they've given away parts like Khalil Mack and Robert Quinn, so getting more pass rush there I think would be nice. All right, on to pick lucky number 13. Who is 13? It's the Packers. They go Olu Fashanu. Fashanu's been having a banger season there for the Penn State, man. He's a phenomenal pass blocker. He does need to work on the run blocking aspect of his game, but keep in mind he's a first-time starter, and he's already shown so much, man, from like a tools perspective and where he's at athletically. It's like a guy that'll put it together sooner rather than later. They need help on that Packers offensive line. The tackle position's been terrible. They've struggled with injuries with Bakhtiari. They've been moving what is it? Elgon Jenkins? Is it Jenkins? Oh. Yeah, it's Jenkins. They've been moving him back into guard, which is great. So, yeah, they need help there at the tackle spot. This makes a ton of sense to me. And let's be honest, like, Jordan asked to be nice, but Packers don't draft wide receivers in the first round. All right, Keely Ringo going to the Lions. I love that, matching him up with Jeffrey Okudah. Obviously, they need to get more depth and competition and talent there at the corner position. Guy like Amani Ariwari is more of a depth piece. I love Ringo. For me, he is cornerback one right now, just from what size and athletic perspective. I think he is just rare for the position, so huge fan. Will Levis going to the Colts makes sense. Listen, Will Levis, I get to pick 15, and that's when I start thinking about Will Levis. Like, I probably will have him, like, not a top 20 guy, but, again, quarterback is kind of a different value. Gojo, your Kansas City Chiefs are not up yet, dude. Calm down, my friend. Gojo's my dog. He's a big Chiefs fan. Me as a Dolphins fan, I'm disgusted with him. But again, with quarterback value, typically those guys go a lot earlier. You take that into account just because of how valuable the position is. So you look at a guy like Will Levis, who he's got the tools. He's got an arm that's capable of making a lot of special throws. He comes from an NFL offense that was formerly coached by the now Rams OC. The guy that's coaching the offense there is the former 49ers quarterback coach. So he's playing in a very NFL style offense. And it's just a guy that needs to put it together between the ears, man. That he's not the best decision maker right now. And that's obvious. If it wasn't before the Tennessee game, it should be now. But when it comes to the tools, there's a lot of juicy tools, and the Colts are a team that will be willing to take a shot on a guy with tools like that, especially with the quarterback position the way that it is. All right, on to pick 16. Being the Bengals, take Broderick Jones. I love Broderick Jones. Look at this. You have 4 offensive tackles taken in the top 16. These are all the guys we're talking about, man. Broderick Jones comes in, potentially help out right away at one of those tackle spots because Jonah Williams has been kind of like, he's kind of like a feast or famine guy. Like, he's solid until he has to face like elite talent, and then he's just like absolutely terrible. La'el Collins hasn't looked the same this year as he has in the past. So, yeah, sure up the tackle position. Broderick Jones, guy that's really, I think, helped his stock this season. And then on to Patriots. Jordan Addison makes all the sense in the world. They need a spark in terms of what they got playing at playmakers. You got Jacoby Myers, which is fine, but he's a guy that operates a bit more in the slot. It occasionally does kick out. The other cat that they normally run with there is Kendrick Bourne. So, yeah, you need to add more talent there at the receiver position. Jordan Addison was having a phenomenal year until he went down with the ankle injury. He should be back, though, at some point this season, but I like this. You add in a guy that can really create after the catch and also stretch the field vertically. The Commanders go Michael Mayer. This one's kind of meh to me. I get it. Merritt, man, he's a good prospect. He is. He's gonna go somewhere in the top 20, top 25. Where is that? That's my best guess. Like, I don't know, because the tight end position is kind of like, unless you're extraordinary, teams don't really want to highly draft you. That's kind of the case. But like what he is, he's a great security blanket for your quarterback, whoever it is going to be playing quarterback for the Commanders. Heineke, Wentz, I don't know, but he's a wonderful security blanket. He brings phenomenal run block and one of the better run blocking tight ends in this class. So he's got to go somewhere for the Commanders. Is that it? I don't know. There's corners on the board I'd still be willing to take. Is there a quarterback here I'd be willing to take? I'd have to think hard about Tanner McKee. He's probably the next guy up for me. So, I don't know. It's kind of tough. Michael Mayer, he's got to go somewhere. Falcons go Trent Simpson. I like him in the back end of the first round here. As a guy that's just so good out in space, guy you'd be even willing to kick out in the slot occasionally, that could come in and create pressure as well. Like, I like him in that regard, and I like him being an addition here to the Falcons. A guy like, oh my gosh, Dean Pease would love a dude like this on his defense that he can use in a variety of different ways. And this is kind of like JOK coming out, you know? But, I mean, if you think about it on that defense, like, they got Rashad Evans, who's actually playing fine. He's, like, okay in terms of, like, what he is as a linebacker. He's more a run defender than anything else. Michael, what's his last name? Walker, the former Fresno kid, I think. But he's been kind of so-so this year, so Trent Simpson, if you want to go ahead and take your shot at the next best linebacker on the board, or the best linebacker on the board, this is probably the guy you're looking at. All right, on to the Broncos. So they changed this pick in the draft. So initially they go Bijan Robinson, or Trevor does, because he forgets about Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams is banged up, so of course when you look at the roster as it is now, Melvin Gordon, Latavius Murray, Chase Edmonds. Yeah, this would be a good landing spot for Bijan, except for, oh no, Javonte Williams is there. So it's like, but again, he won't be back till probably like early to mid-November next season, because you kind of look at it a similar timeline as what has happened with J.K. Dobbins. So honestly, that pairing of Robinson and Williams, I would be against it. So he does end up switching the move. If you don't know, this is the Dolphins' former pick from San Fran. They shipped this pick to get Bradley Chubb, but he eventually changes it to Anton Harrison. So for me, Anton Harrison's kind of like fringe first. Like, I really love Anton Harrison, but he is a guy that he knows he needs to get better in terms of strength, and something he's worked on, and it's not quite there just yet. Broncos, they could definitely use another tackle. Even with Bortles, you might wonder, is that maybe someone they can like try to move? I don't know. Regardless, like the weak spot for the Broncos this year would be tackle. If you had to pick anywhere on offense, that wasn't quarterback, then it would probably be tackle. Then again, running back too, but I mean, that's a lot of that's injury. Some of that is also Hackett's terrible play calling. So let's just keep this train rolling. Siaki Ika going to the Chargers. They need a big space eater, man. Their run defense is a crap. They try to fill in, try to make it better with a few value budget type players, and it's just not quite there yet. I know injuries have played a lot into it in terms of like more so the pass rush in the secondary, but grabbing Siaki Ika, who could come in, be that space eater, open up things for other players, I like that a lot. All right, next we got Darnell Washington. This one I found very interesting because I'm not this high on Darnell Washington just yet, just because he's very limited when it comes to what he can do laterally. He's not going to be a guy that can just like, he's not going to be a guy that creates separation. Like, people will be like, oh man, that dude's kind of a great athlete for his size. For his size, he's not going to be able to create consistent separation. What he does though is he's this size mismatch for linebackers, safeties. He's just going to create mismatches. He's going to be really good in the red zone. And what he does from a run game perspective is kind of right up the Seahawks' alley. And that's why I kind of like this pick. But at the same time, I don't like it because I feel like this is a bit early for him. But I get it that other people are higher on him in the draft community than I am. Like the Draft Network's really high on him as a late first round pick. I feel better about him around that like mid-second round area. And then Osiris Torrance going to the Jets. I like this a ton. Keep Elijah Vera Tucker out there at the tackle spot. Then you got Dwayne Brown, Mekhi Becton coming back. So you kind of have tackle hopefully figured out. Connor McGovern, you can bring back on a deal. It's that other guard spot that they kind of need to figure out. To be fair, Lincoln Tomlinson's been terrible this year. But grabbing Torrance, who is the best guard. This is a total Joe Douglas, Robert Saleh type of pick. This is something they would totally do. Makes sense to me. So Torrance being the first guard off the board, he's probably the only guard that has a first round grade. Only interior player on the offensive line that would have a first round grade for me. All right, on to pick. Dolphins forfeited their pick. LOL, haha. Rams go Cam Smith. Marcus Peters is a free agent after the year, so that makes a lot of sense in the world to me. I probably would go Christian Gonzalez just because it would be similar to what he's been asked to do there for the Ducks, and this is a press guy. And this is a guy that's a wonderful athlete. I think that's the guy I'd probably lean with. But Cam Smith's got some ball skills. So if you're looking to replace Marcus Peters, who's like a ball skills driven dude, that does make sense. Let's see. On to the Chiefs. Go Andre Carter. They get a project edge rusher, a guy who's a bit more further along than people might give him, but it hasn't been nearly as productive because of immense double teams, really. Teams are only targeting him. They're not afraid of that Army defense. They just aren't afraid of that Army defense. Only one player strikes fear on that defense, and he's basically getting doubled every play. But Carter, man, he brings the length. He brings good size, good explosiveness. You just love the way he moves at that size. He could definitely put on more muscle, something like in the NFL. I think he will once he gets an NFL weight room. So if it's a guy you want to take a shot on, why not? Jalen Highland, man, making it in the first round is interesting to me. I mean, you get this nice separator, I guess, for the Cowboys, which they kind of lack that. They don't like Michael Gallup is supposed to be that, but he just hasn't quite come back from injury the way people have expected to him as of yet. That's why they were a name you heard in the wide receiver market during the trade deadline. They just got outbidded. It is what it is. There's teams with more capital or better capital that are going to be able to make moves over you. So it happens. But I like the addition. Feel like this is a bit early because Hyatt, I don't know if I'm going to be completely sold that he's a guy that can function on the outside in the NFL, but like what he brings from like just blazing speed, a guy that can consistently stretch the field. I understand that. I get that. I accept that. All right, on to pick 28. Being the New York Giants going Jackson Smith and Jigba. Don't like this because you're getting a guy that's probably going to be utilized similarly to Wan'Dale Robinson, and it's like, okay, well, you just moved on from Kadarius Toney, who couldn't see the field because of injury, couldn't see the field because honestly, that Wan'Dale, that's the role that Toney was going to play. So it's like Jackson Smith and Jigba, he's coming in and it's a similar role. Like, I get it. This guy is a very good athlete, or this guy is very good after the catch. In terms of his athleticism, it's something that's probably going to test out like, it's not really high tier, but what he can do out of the slot, he understands the position. He's a good run blocker. So it's like, I get it, but it's like, I'm not in love with it just because I feel like it really fills a similar role to Wan'Dale. BJ Ojolari going to the Titans. I like this. They could definitely use more pass rush. Bud Dupree, I said that was a bust free agent signing from the get-go, and it's appeared to be as such so far. Harold, really missing Harold Landry here. That really sucks. But if you're able to get a healthy Landry and then bring Ojolari into the mix there, man, that pass rush looks stupid scary. All right, on to 30. Clark Phillips. I love Clark Phillips. If it wasn't for size, we'd be talking about him like as a top 10 player, but because of his size, we're not. I think this would be a very good fit for the Vikings that could really give two craps about the size of their corners. Can the guy ball? Cool, sign him up. Clark Phillips, man, this dude's been dangerous. I think he has like 5 picks on the season. 2 of them went for pick sixes. Like, dude that just understands the position, understands what's asked from him, and he does it effectively and efficiently. I love that. And then Antonio Johnson going to the Bills. I'm still more of a Brian Branch guy, but really those two guys are very close to one another. They offer a few different things, so Johnson might be better scheme fit when it comes to the Bills. So I do understand that. I don't know if it would be enough to scare me off of Brian Branch, but it is what it is. Good pick, Bills. They can really do whatever the heck they want. They're kind of like in that place as a franchise where it's like, let's just take best players available, really. And then the final pick here is Jahmyr Gibbs. I guess it would have been Bijan if they still considered him on the board. But regardless, the Eagles take a run back. It makes sense when you look at the Miles. Sanders is a free agent after the season. Jahmyr Gibbs has been wonderful, dude. He's so good out in space, but he's shown nimbleness between the tackles. He's shown the ability to play consistently between the tackles there for Alabama. I would definitely throw Blake Corum up into that debate as well. It's going to be weird because like running back's a strange thing now in today's NFL where it's like, okay, the run game started to mean a little bit more as teams tend not to stack the boxes. They're attacking you from too high fronts to stop the pass. So is this the year the NFL is like, no, running back is back, baby? I don't know. I still think teams kind of are like, you know what? It's still a position we could fill into like on day 2 or even in day 3. But I understand from the Eagles' perspective, when you have 2 first-round picks and a very good roster, you can kind of go wherever. But that's it for the video. Go ahead, do the YouTube thing. As always, until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.